CBS Radio. This is Talk 650, powered by CBS Radio.
In most situations, if they really want to accelerate the thing, they can find some way to accelerate it on you.
Now, why would they do that, though, if they've got, millions of dollars worth of units out there to be sold?
Well, like Randy will tell you, when he goes through and looks at these mortgages that come in, it's changed hands several times. And so now the current owner of the loan bought it for pennies on the dollar,
right,
and they don't want you to try to send $1,000 a month in. They want to cash the house out so they can flip it and put their money back to work over and over.
And that's part of this MERS controversy that's going on right now.
Trading back in the back room with MERS, absolutely.
What's really kind of interesting too is they say, well, you can't use the MERS system to create or transfer interest in these mortgage loans, and yet that's exactly what MERS is continuing to do, isn't it?
Yes, and Randy, what happens here in Texas? I mean, some folks tell us all the time, like, well, MERS is involved. You can't transfer my mortgage. You can't foreclose. You can't sell it, whatever. And so what's the situation?
Well, the first thing you got to understand about MERS, it's nothing more than some electronic bookkeeping system. The whole purpose of MERS was to make life simple for the banks so that they could track who they sold it to, which of their competitors they're selling these mortgages to for pennies on the dollar. That, of course, has its own irony within it. But, all MERS is supposed to do is track it. And what you said earlier, Brent, is, and it's what's important to take note, MERS is the one, by its own charter, by its own terms and agreements, by its own contracts with all of these banks, says we do not take an interest in these notes, we do not receive any type of benefit from these notes, and we do not make the transfers ourselves. Yet, that's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly what they claim. And they do that from the very get-go.
Yeah.
You look at your deed of trust, and it says MERS is the beneficiary. Well, that's kind of an ambiguous term. What's that mean, beneficiary? To me, on a mortgage, that means that's the person who's entitled to all of the money. Well, why would MERS be entitled? They don't loan any money.
That's right.
They've agreed to that in court proceedings throughout this country in numerous states. They don't receive anything for it, so how could they be the beneficiary? And what gives them the right to, in their name, they're not the servicer, keep in mind, in their name, foreclose on a property?
And when you walk into a courtroom and you're trying to help somebody out and you've got this situation, you make that reasoned, logical argument, what does the judge say?
Well, it sounds reasoned and logical to you and I. The fact of the matter is it's really complex. How does MERS get involved? Why are they involved? And to the average person, and I think, unfortunately, to a lot of judges, it just seems like, well, look, if they're the ones that show up, obviously they have some type of interest. It says here in this deed of trust they're the beneficiary. Well, states like Nevada, Florida, others have rejected that notion. They say, look, you can't be a beneficiary unless you actually receive something tangible as a result. We haven't really dealt with that issue in Texas so far, but the fact of the matter is they don't receive anything. They can't receive anything. You send your payments in, it's going to go to the servicer. Whether the servicer actually sends it to the investor or not, that's a different discussion too, but I can guarantee you they're not sending it to MERS. And when MERS forecloses that home, the new question is, well, who's going to receive the home? Who's going to receive the proceeds from that home?
And we have a situation that we're not directly involved in, but a title company that we work with frequently told us not long ago that they have a problem where, and they're involved in litigation because a person bought a home, okay, just a regular real estate transaction, okay, and but it was a foreclosure, okay, so the payoff came actually via MERS, and so they have a release of lien that MERS provided for once the house sells through, and they provided the payoff. Okay, well, the title company, when the thing closed, wired the money to MERS because that's where the payoff came from. Now, now here's what's messed up, right? Not that long later, Bank of America forecloses on the same property that a new person bought, okay, because they go, hey, somebody wasn't making the payments. I'm going to foreclose this thing. And the title company's like, wait a second, this is so confusing. A person came in, legitimately bought a home, we wired the payoff, and then subsequent to that, Bank of America's foreclosing. the new person paid cash. They didn't even take a loan from Bank of America. How did Bank of America get involved in this? And then what they found out is, hey, MERS, we wired you some cash. And supposedly Bank of America is saying it should have gone to them. So you need to send it back to us at the title company, and we'll send it to Bank of America, or you need to go pay Bank of America. What's going on here? And then what's the sad thing is, the person who bought the home, paid cash for it, doesn't even own it anymore, because Bank of America foreclosed it and took it back. And so this person's like, hey, I bought this house, paid cash for it, now what do? I'm not even entitled to it anymore.
Yeah.
That's the kind of mess that can go on when you have multiple parties all showing up and saying, "Woo, it's me over here, send me the money."
I thought we went through some financial reform here recently. Did that not take care of this tangled mess?
No.
Apparently not.